Welcome to the Health Science Podcast, sponsored by the National Health Association. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and today I'm absolutely delighted to have as my guest Julie Davis, who is a plant-powered lifestyle and weight loss coach who's got a lot of training in lifestyle health sciences and coaching. She's certified as a wellness coach. She's also certified in nutrition from the Center for Nutritional Studies up at Cornell, the Colin Campbell program. And Julie, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association, the oldest organization in the world championing the extraordinary benefits of a whole plant food diet and healthy lifestyle, as well as water-only fasting. We believe that health results from healthful living and focus on evidence-based science that promotes the health of you and your loved ones, as well as the health of all animals and the environment. We feature experts from a cross-section of disciplines within the plant nutrition, vegan, psychological, environmental, and animal compassion sectors. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, the NHA's Director of Health Education.
Oh, thanks. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I know your journey has been over a number of years, and I know that you've got a personal story of your own health and weight loss issues and that kind of thing. And I also know you have an interesting background in aerospace engineering. So I think the audience, just to get going, would probably love to hear the segues of your life, the things that were the motivations that got you maybe first interested in vegan and plant-based, and maybe we can go back and kind of track that in your life a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you put it, because the truth is it has been, I can think of my life in eras, because I grew up very much like everyone else at that time. Nobody was really all that interested in nutrition. I was always that chubby kid, and it was all the more pronounced because I had sisters who were not chubby at all, and nobody else in my family was particularly chubby. And so I just grew up with this complex a little bit. And I really hated being overweight, or, I don't like to use the word fat, but that's how I thought of myself. I would never
Right.
call someone else that, but that's the way I thought of myself. And I recently found a diary when I was visiting my mom last summer. I finally cleaned out my closet there. Well, tried to. And I found an old diary and I thought, oh, this is fun. I'm going to flip through. And I was really horrified and saddened to see how many entries were about weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, this is the year I'm going to start exercising. This is the time. Okay, I'm going to exercise. I'm really determined. I'm going to do it this time. And I just really want to lose the weight, and I'm going to exercise. It was all about exercising. Of course, I knew nothing about nutrition. And so years and years go by. I never really think much about nutrition. I knew nothing about plant-based nutrition, nothing at all. And until probably my rock bottom was in college, when I was living in Rochester, New York for the summer. I was refueling airplanes at Rochester International. As you said, I'm an aerospace engineer by training. I also got my pilot's license, and I was just like everything airplanes. That was my thing. So that summer, I just wanted to hang out with my boyfriend who lived there. And so I moved there for the summer, and that was my job. But that's the summer I got addicted to fast food. Everyone at the airport ate fast food. If we had a little time in between fueling airplanes, we'd go park at the terminal and go in and badge in and go and get McDonald's and go eat it in our truck. And then I'd go home and every single day, fill up a cup with ice cream and cover it with a can of soda every single day. And then for dinner, I would have diner food or bar food, fried stuff. I don't think I ate a piece of fruit the entire summer, and probably not a vegetable either. And looking back on that, I think I really didn't know anything about nutrition at all. All I knew was how to feel good temporarily. And that's what this food did for me. Looking back, I must have been pretty unhappy. But, still I was in college. I was so busy. it,
So you were young enough not to really develop any significant health issues from that foray into that madness. So that was the issue. So there wasn't anything that was kind of smacking you in the face to change, really. So
exactly. Except I didn't like the way I looked. And
right,
this is something I talk about when I run a master class is I say, I really can't bear to think of where I would be now if I'd kept that pattern up
right,
because I was very lucky. And actually, you say I didn't develop anything, but I probably did and didn't know it
right.
because there were signs. Like, for example, I grew up loving to hike and camp. When my dad taught us that was his thing. And we would always go up to New Hampshire to the White Mountains and we would hike. And I just always wanted to hike the hardest thing I could do. I always wanted a challenge. And that summer when I was working at the airport, one time we went to we were going to do like a 2-day backpacking trip and we ate McDonald's on the way there, of course. And we started walking and I'm like, no, I can't do this. I want to go back. I want to go home. I want to sit on the couch. I want to not. It was too hard. I
Hmm.
felt like I was walking through knee-deep water, trudging along. Like the only thing that kept me going was the feeling of shame and like embarrassment that I would have had if I'd stopped because I was, with my boyfriend at the time and he wanted to keep going.
Was your boyfriend the partner in crime with that eating pattern when you were going off track like that? Was he doing that with you?
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So you had a partner in crime for all that too.
Yes.
So yeah.
So yes, this is one of the things I talk about in my coaching is how do you navigate?
Right. Right.
Because I only started to try and really lose weight and get healthier, although I still didn't know what it meant at the time, get healthier. I still knew nothing about nutrition. When all my roommates moved out, I found myself living alone for the very first time. And then when I took my job down in Texas, working in aerospace engineering, I was living alone. Finally, I was sort of like the master of my own my food universe.
Okay.
So I was eating terribly, but it felt like it was better. I was having like garden burgers and cottage cheese and low fat dairy, everything. And, still no fruits and vegetables. But I thought, oh, Slim Fast. I was surviving on Slim Fast
Slim
Diet
Fast.
Coke.
I remember Slim Fast. Oh my God, Slim Fast. Yes.
Slim Fast, I'll tell you what, it worked a little bit for a little while. But the thing
Right.
is, I never had my cholesterol checked in those days. I didn't know what my blood pressure was. I wasn't getting well checks all the time. Like, I wonder, and I, can't tell now, but I wonder, looking back, I think I probably showed the signs, early signs, just as kids do now. Even kids, are showing the signs of, clogged arteries very early on in their lives. But the question was about my plant-based nutrition, and I had a
Yeah.
very,
So
very
what was the aha moments for you that kind of made that next step, so to speak?
well. This is it, and this it is not an exaggeration to say that this changed my life. I was out at a vegan restaurant. Why vegan restaurant? I don't know. I liked it. It was vegan junk food. It had nothing to do with me being vegan. And this was 2008. I went up to pay the bill because in those days you had to get up and go pay the bill. And there was a stack of books at the register, and it was Food Revolution by John Robbins. I'd never heard of
Right.
John Robbins. Who's that? And so I was like, I'm just going to buy this. I just feel like I should buy this. Looks interesting. That was it. I mean, I didn't know anything about how animals were treated.
Right.
I used to make fun of people who said animal welfare, this and animal, like it's better stuff, not good for the chickens and they treat them badly. I was like, who cares? Who cares? What are you talking? Like, I knew nothing. I was completely ignorant about it. And I read that book. I was like, I want to learn more. So I have, between then and now, I have read everything I can get my hands on. I mean, not just about health, but it didn't even start about health. It started about the animals. And then,
Mhm.
I read Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. I loved that one. I read Mad Cowboy. I think it was Howard Lyman.
Howard Lyman, yeah, who
Howard
I
Lyman.
know very well, Howard. Yes, that's a very breathtaking book. That book for sure.
So brave, that book. I was so happy that he wrote that because I thought, if you can do it, and you feel this strongly about it, then everybody should hear this message. And so that was definitely my aha moment. Now, did that mean that from that moment, I gave up everything? No, what it looked like was I was newly married. My husband wanted to know why I was buying $10 chicken breasts. At that time, $10 was a lot for
Yeah.
organic chicken. Now it would probably be twice that. I thought, well, we're not going to give up meat, but we're going to be a lot more conscious about how we're going to do it. So we're going to have organic milk and organic eggs and free range, and we're going to have, organic chicken. And my husband's like, what is it? Who are you? And what did you read? And what are we doing? This is ridiculous. So that's sort of how it started. It started with me being like, well, I'm not committed to a plant-based lifestyle, but I want to treat the animals better. Well, that led, of course, naturally to me reading Dr. Furman and reading Brenda Davis and reading T. Colin Campbell. And, it's not just the animals. It's also my health. And, it's not just my health. It's also the environment.
Right.
And it was just, this is how we need to eat. This is how everybody needs to eat.
So you started putting all those puzzle pieces together for sure. Yeah, before we go on, let me take just a short break so we can get just a little word from the National Health Association, and then we'll be right back. So we're going to take just a short break to hear from our sponsor, the National Health Association. I'm here with Julie Davis, plant-powered lifestyle coach. We're going to be right back. You're listening to the NHA Health Science Podcast. Dr. Frank Sabatino here, encouraging you to check out the NHA membership. For just $35 a year in the U.S., and $55 internationally, you'll have access to a wealth of resources, including our quarterly full-color print magazine, Health Science. Stay updated on the latest health tools, inspiring stories, and exclusive events like the NHA Conference and plant-exclusive cruises. Join us at healthscience.org/membership and make a difference in your life and the world. I'm Dr. Frank Sabatino, your host, and now back to the NHA Health Science Podcast, where more exciting insights await you.
I definitely went through a period where I was going to the doctor a lot because I had all these little things like I was a little bit anxious and I thought maybe I was having heart palpitations, and they never figured anything out. So I don't know, but I do think all of that was probably related somehow to my slim, fast, high dairy cheese diet.
I think that's probably true. Well, as you were making this journey of discovery, we're going to talk about the impact of environments in people's lives. We'll get to that. But you were married to someone. So let's talk about how that transition was affecting that relationship, because I know that sometimes that could be a bone of contention as one partner's making a move. So was your husband going along with some of this transition, or was there balking? Was there upset? Was there antagonism in terms of that transition?
Yes, all of the above. You call it a bone of contention. I say for some people, it would be a deal breaker.
Right.
On either side, the person who is doing the change is becoming plant-based, or the person who doesn't want any part of someone living with them who's plant-based. Either way, it creates tension. Right. And I wish I could tell you that I have completely resolved that over the last 10, 15 years, but that wouldn't be totally truthful. I mean, it's something that we do work on all the time. And my husband has done much better. I say better. In my opinion, he's done much better. He's willing to eat lentils, and he used to eat soup out of a can and like Jimmy Dean's sausage breakfast sandwiches. So
he's come a long way really in his own right. Let's be realistic then.
Give him a lot of credit. He's
and you're still together, which is a testimony to something stronger than, the testimony to the love between the two of you, which is great. Because I have seen relationships torn apart by those pressures where, one partner is kind of like, nope, I just don't want to go there, and the other person is like realizing the necessity of that lifestyle change, So let's
Yeah.
talk about that, because now you were making those transitions with food. So what was the next step in your desire then to translate that into wanting to turn other people onto it, as terms of your movement into being now a coach, a lifestyle coach that could actually reach out and be there for people trying to make these very important changes?
Yeah, it was a little bit, circuitous, but I quit my engineering job when my oldest daughter was about 6 months old just because it was too much, and I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years, and during that time, we made a couple of moves, and we were living in England during COVID, and, still didn't have any ideas about what I wanted to do next. I was, had a new baby. I was not thinking about any career moves at that point. But COVID was a really interesting time because it really showed me that, how much power we actually have. And it was a really scary time because we didn't really know, a lot of people were getting very, very sick and we didn't really know what it was or what it was capable of. And some people went off on were drinking a lot and were gaining a lot of weight. And I went the other route. I was sprouting broccoli seeds in my kitchen. I was we were eating huge salads every day. I thought, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to do everything in my power to try and, bolster my own immune system against it. So I started to get really, really interested in using food as a therapy then. And then when we moved back to Texas in 2020, the very end of 2020, I started thinking about what's next for me. I thought, I know it's going to be something in public health because I'm really interested in everybody knowing the truth about the way we eat. I was really interested at that time in food politics. I read Marion Nestle's book, and again, another aha moment. Changed my life even more when I learned about how inseparable food and politics and industry and money, it's all so closely intertwined. And I thought, I want to do something with this. And I found a great program that was all about lifestyle health sciences and had a coaching component. And I thought, I don't think I really want to be a coach, but I'm really interested in the lifestyle part. I thought maybe I want to do something clinically. But after I really learned what coaching was, I kind of fell in love with it because I had no idea what coaching was. And I don't think most people do. When people think of coaching, they think of, like someone with a whistle and some tight shorts or someone yelling and telling you what to do. And, yelling at you and, thinking of like a personal trainer or a boot camp leader or something.
Right.
And that's not what coaching is at all. And so I decided to pursue that because it's my way that I can really get to know people, hear their own journeys and their real desires and their motivators. It's not about me just feeding them information.
And this was a time, I know, because I went through it too. I was running a residential health center that I've done through the years, where people came and lived for periods of time, and we fed them SOS free vegan food. We did water fasting. We did all of those things, but it was hotel based. And when the pandemic hit, the hotel had to close. So we had to close the business. And I think, like all of us, we had to kind of reinvent ourselves to a certain degree, because now so many things were going to be basically online, not even in person anymore, because people were afraid to gather in person to a certain extent. So was that an impetus for you too, that idea that you now had to move into a kind of a platform where, in a way, it's positive because you can reach many more people through that platform, but it now forced you to have to go into creating kind of an online kind of business in a way that would allow
Mhm.
you to be there for people, but not necessarily in person. So many of us had to just reinvent how we were doing things, and it kind of that necessity was the mother of a certain kind of invention, and that still stays now. There's so many, coaching opportunities and online telehealth services and so on and so forth. So was that something then that you decided to start to set in motion, an online kind of component that would now allow you to bring this coaching experience to a wider audience? Was that something that was a motivation for you?
Definitely, it was. There's a lot of reasons I think an online program is great. One, I have to admit that one of the motivators is that I live in Texas, and sometimes even the word Texas makes you think of like barbecue. I mean, or cowboys, and nobody says Texas, and you don't bring to mind like I don't
Right.
know, a salad. And so part of it was like, oh, how am I ever going to find in-person clients where I live? I even live not even in like a big city. I live kind of out in out in the country. And so I thought I need something that can reach more people, because my goal is to reach as many people as possible to help
Right.
spread the message about plant-based eating and show them what's possible for them. And it's cool because I had one woman who we were talking online, who is part of my Facebook community, my private Facebook community. She was in Canada, and she raises game birds, and she and her husband are hunters. And I thought,
Hmm.
wonder why she's calling me. But the thing is, she tried everything else, and nothing was really working for her. She had some injuries, she couldn't lose weight. It was, all these compounding issues. And she thought, why not? And I love that about an online program, because people are finding you who aren't necessarily who you think needs your help, and it could be anybody. And I just really like that. It has a lot of reach. A lot of people I'm working, who are in my community are in Canada, um, or in other parts, like more urban parts of the United States. But someone just joined my community from like South Dakota the other day. So it's really from all over.
Julia, can you explain to the audience, or give them a little bit more of an explanation of the mechanics of how you do your coaching? I mean, what is the intake? How does it go from soup to nuts? So someone wants to get together with you. What's the steps that are set in motion to do that? And then what does the program look like from your end, your vision, your work, the mechanics of how you do it?
Yeah. So I I usually I really want to talk with someone first before I even invite them to invest in my program, because it's really important to me that they're ready. And so we always have a conversation first. I run a masterclass every so often. That's free, that people can register for and just learn more about me and more about my methods for weight loss, which of course involves plant-based nutrition. Um, and then I have a 12 module course that's completely online. That's, sort of goes through 12 weeks. It goes through transitioning kind of little by little to a plant-based diet. And over those 12 weeks, and in addition to that, I have one-on-one coaching throughout the program, and also group coaching throughout the program.
And do you work alone, or do you have other professionals that are part of your team, or do you have a team, or is it a solo action?
It's currently solo, but I do have big dreams for it. And
Okay.
I know some other very talented coaches who someday I would love to work with and bring into my program. So those are long-term goals, but for now it's just me.
In your coaching, are you doing things like food demos, like some people will do online? Are you doing that kind of thing too? I mean, showing people how to prepare certain recipes, or get their pantry together, or to do whatever it takes. Is it very practical that way too, that you have those things set in motion?
Yes, I try to make it very accessible, very practical. We do the pantry and fridge clean out, but not at first,
Right.
because I think that really can scare some people off. I want to
Yes.
always focus on, let's add some things in before we really worry about taking everything out. And so that's a big part of it. Culinary coaching is a big part of it. And so some people don't know how to cut garlic, or, know how to take the peel off
Right.
garlic. We start very basic.
Some
And
very
so
basic, important things. Yeah. Excellent.
basic, how to cut a mango. Like, I make videos and put them on my Facebook group, or on Instagram. I put them on just so, some people are very intimidated by the idea of things they have never eaten. I had never eaten a mango up until I mean, pretty recently. I wasn't very adventurous growing up when it came to fruit.
Yeah,
Bananas,
we're in Florida. I have mango trees in the backyard. So we've been cutting mangoes for a long, mango is one of my favorites. I want to segue into something because I really enjoy, I have been involved with helping people with weight loss for the last 40 to 50 years. In fact, I have a book that just came out addressing compassionate weight loss from a plant-based perspective and all of the constellation of factors, because we know that it's not only the food, we also know that factors of stress, sleep, environmental toxicity, all of these things play a role in how successful, including the psychological factors, psycho-emotional factors. What I liked about reading about you, you were very much tuned into this idea of how the environments we function in, whether they're the work environments, home environments, play environments, play a big role in how we can adapt and adjust to being successful. Meaning, how does the person create an opportunity to really win? Because the bottom line is, all mammals, including humans, tend to want to use the least amount of energy for the maximum amount of pleasure. So if you're going to help someone make a transition to a healthier way of eating, how can you make that an easy process so the reward benefit is something that doesn't require a huge investiture of energy? So you've got more successful things in the cabinets and the refrigerator. So talk a little bit about your mentality of really, really teaching people how to selectively create those environments that will give them an opportunity to win.
That's very tough because, as you know, we live in a very, very difficult environment for weight loss. And at the same time, we live in a society that's obsessed with weight loss. And the two forces are opposing. It's very hard to see people talking about weight loss as if, you know, being thin is the most important thing in the world. And then you go to the store and what are you looking at?
Right.
You're looking, there are forces at play here that are much bigger than us. I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. There is a lot of money at stake. Um, I just had a really interesting conversation yesterday with a nutrition researcher who studied obesity. He's pretty, powerful, high up at a university now. But he said one thing that really, really made me want to rant for the rest of the day. And even my sister said, "You got to calm down." He said he's a big proponent of GLP-1 agonists, or and
Oh
anyone
God.
who doesn't know, those are the injections like Ozempic,
Right.
that are weight loss drugs. Huge proponent of that. And I said, do you ever think that I can't remember the question that I asked him, but I said we talked about, it's very hard for people to go into a store and make a good choice because look at what's the easy choice is the unhealthy choice. And he said, "Well, I really think there's an aspect to freedom. Like we need to be free to make a choice." And I didn't make a big deal at the time, but I thought, freedom? There's no freedom there. We are not, if you're comparing an Oreo and a carrot, is there any freedom? One is more like a drug to our biology and the other tastes like nothing compared to. And so I thought, no, we cannot wait for the environment to improve. Like we have to take control of our own environments to the best of our ability right now.
Right.
And so that's what I teach. And I say we can't control everything. But there is so much that we can control that we don't think we can. We
Yeah,
can
the ignorance of GLP-1 agonists, because I've studied them forever, and the entire GLP process is that the impact of GLP-1 in the body has a big impact on regulating satiety and appetite. So it is something that is naturally produced. And intriguingly, it is dramatically produced to an even greater extent by high fiber plant food and the impact that those foods have on the microbiota, giving feedback to produce GLP-1. So there is no reason to take Ozempic in any way, shape, or form. The fact of the matter is, eating the way we recommend will dramatically produce those effects without the problems of pancreatitis and thyroid medullary cancer and, all of this, the adverse effects that could actually come. So I understand your rant. I understand being actually pissed off by someone who should know better that is promoting those kinds of approaches, because that's catering to the lowest common denominator in our culture. And that is, instead of looking at the fact that we have a power to make lifestyle change, let's just find some medication that kind of doesn't make it necessary to make a choice or to revamp the way we think and live our lives. I agree with you. I would want to rant too. Absolutely.
I think that people are underestimated big time by
Yes.
doctors, by researchers, by the people who, in some cases make the dietary recommendations. I think people are underestimated.
Well, Julie, doctors have been making those choices forever. Many of them are aware, for example, that eating better, moving more, handling stress better is going to improve and reverse many major problems. But they make the judgment, because I don't know why they feel they're able. They make the judgment that no one's going to comply. So why teach? And that's a huge, huge mistake. Speaking to the point that you just made, our role is to give people the information that we can and allow them an opportunity, as you said, to use that to structure their own environment that could support their ability to be well, better, stronger, thinner, whatever the outcome is that they're seeking. And so I always had a problem with doctors making this decision about compliance, because they don't really have a right to do that. That's not really what they should be doing at all.
That's infuriating to me. And the people who are sometimes in need of really good counsel are the ones who are the most underestimated.
Right.
For whatever reason, maybe lower socioeconomic status. I mean, it really runs deep. And if you could say there's a lot of bias there. And so I like to talk to people about, let's control what we can.
Right.
We can't change everything. I hope, we are trying to, but in the meantime, we got to do what we can do. I was saying, people knew that tobacco or smoking cigarettes was terrible, and it was still promoted for a long, long time. So it takes a long time to turn the Titanic around. I mean, in the meantime, let's control what's in our houses. One of the problems I think is the most scary for people, or one of the barriers, is, well, my kids won't eat it. Or my husband won't eat it. Okay. That's a real barrier for people. And so that's something we talk about. And there's a lot of strategies to deal with things like that. Like me just saying, well, do it anyway. So what? Who cares? That's not helpful. It's not helpful to them. It's a real barrier. And me as a coach, my job is to let's talk about this barrier. Let me help you come to your own solution.
Right.
Because there is one. But what is it? Maybe you haven't thought about what it is. When you go out to dinner, does it mean you can never go out to dinner again? No, but let's talk about strategies. Let's look at menus ahead of time. Let's see what places we should avoid, because they really don't have any options. What can you leave off of something to make it much healthier? What can you get on the side? Can you get a salad without the dressing, without the cheese and the croutons? Everywhere. You can eat anywhere. When you go to somebody's house, what are strategies there? When you go to a picnic or a party, it's a holiday, there's always something in our environment that is threatening to derail us or make us think this is not worth it. I just want to do what's easy. I want to go back to the way it was before. This is uncomfortable. That's where the support of a coach comes in. Yes, You're right. All of that is true. Let's talk about it. Let's make a strategy.
Julie, before we go on, let's let people know where they can find you if they want to pursue, interacting with you. So what's the URL where you want them to go? Just say it clear and say it twice if you can for us.
Okay. JulieDavisCoaching.com is my website. And this is a little bit long, but my private Facebook community is called Plant Powered Weight Loss for Women 40 Plus. did I say that? Plant-powered weight loss community for women 40 plus. I always forget the community. Okay, I'll say that again. Plant-powered weight loss community for women 40 plus.
Yeah, that's a big one right there.
That's a private Facebook group. You have to
Okay.
request to join it and, answer a couple questions. But
Julie, I get the impression from you that you're someone who likes to meet people where they are. And what I mean by that is, people are in all stages of transition. And sometimes if we get too heavy with trying to make too much change at once, you can turn somebody off to a path that may actually change their lives if you would be more tolerant of where they are. So let me ask you this question, because in my experience, especially when you're dealing with food addictions and food problems, nobody likes deprivation. So if you try to present a model of deprivation, there's usually a rebellion. So most people will opt for something that's more like creative substitutions. But some of the creative substitutions that may replace what they're used to may still be a little bit more highly processed in a vegan standpoint. So where do you stand on allowing or working with people as they may want to incorporate some of those vegan substitutions that are still not ideal for health, but they're kind of bringing them into the fold, so to speak? How do you stand on that? How does that play in the kind of coaching that you do?
yes, I think it's important to not be cut and dried on anything. Like you said, other than being plant-based, I am cut and dried on that.
Right.
But as far as, I do tell people, if you are not ready to 100% give up something, could be eggs or dairy or whatever, that's your prerogative and I won't judge you for it, but I won't be the one to recommend those things. So this is what I'm, teaching you, and this is what I recommend. And if you feel really strongly about adding an egg to that, you're in charge of you. You're an autonomous human being. Just valuing somebody's autonomy is really above all the most important thing. Nobody wants to be told what to do. Nobody wants to feel judged for their choices. When it comes to things like, okay, you want to have Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat instead of a real burger. Okay. I actually, think as a transition tool, it can be helpful, because what I have found in my own life is as you get closer and closer, you learn more and more, and you want that kind of thing less and less. So it is often a temporary tool.
Right.
And then you learn how to make really delicious sweet potato black bean burgers. And then you think, I'm feeling really good. The more real whole foods I eat, the better I feel. And you're going to crave Beyond Meat less. Really, like very rarely, once in a while, I will make something for my husband that has Beyond Meat in it, because to me, I don't think it's healthy, but it's more humane and it's easier on the environment. And
Absolutely.
So sometimes I have to make compromises for, to help to meet someone where they're at. And so I do that. I think that's important, to be flexible.
There are some people that coach, or even some doctors that teach, that come from a place now where we know the pressures that are existing in the environment. For example, we could make the case that the house is really burning down. And so there are some people who feel that it's a little too late for incremental change, that more dramatic things need to be done more quickly. How do you deal with the angst of that while you're coaching incremental changes in people, when you really have the sense that, oh my God, we need to do something, a much bigger yeoman effort, because this house is burning down and we need to do something to almost immediately stop that? So how do you juggle that dynamic in your own life and in your own work?
In my own life, I do believe that, and I do everything I can to do my part. I'm going to eat the things that are nitrogen fixers, like legumes, rather than, eat something that's really rough on the soil and
Right.
water.
How do you juggle it with your clients who are really probably coming from a place of incremental change because they're not quite ready to make that leap yet?
Yes, and as a coach, I'm not finding that people are as compelled necessarily by environmental pressures because they don't know
Right.
as they are by like weight loss. And so it is tough. It is really, I want to tell everyone,
Right.
well, you shouldn't eat that way because it's still, using a lot more water than you could, than this other food you could be eating, or eating that hamburger is like taking somebody's like it's a 22 days worth of showers or something. I can't remember where I heard that, but it's a uh, the thing is the best I think I can do is even if the change is incremental, it's not ideal. Ideally, everyone would wake up and say, "Oh my god, there's so much evidence that we're destroying ourselves. We're
Right.
destroying the planet. Like there's this we should have made this change years and years and years ago." And instead of we're going to be forced to make the change someday. That's what I say to my husband all the time. Okay, you don't have to be vegan now. Someday you're going to be. No, you're not going to have a choice. Um, but with coaching clients, incremental is better than nothing.
Yes, I agree with that too.
And it does, I think progress begets more progress. And, it doesn't take long to feel better eating that way. And you don't want the other things anymore. That's been my experience. I have no interest in eating those things anymore. So incremental is better than nothing, but all the way 100% plant-based, of course, is the best. But like you said before, I have to meet them where they are.
Right. You alluded before to the fact that there were some other things on the horizon that you were wanting to get involved in and bring to fruition in your work and life. Can you address what those are? Where you see yourself going and what you're hoping to accomplish a little bit down the road?
Yes. Well, one thing it's interesting because a couple months ago, I couldn't have seen certain things. Now I see them, and the road is just twisting and winding, and it's such an interesting journey. It just purely by chance, I started working with somebody who's dealing with metastatic breast cancer, and she is very interested in using diet to do everything she can to help herself. Like she knows she's up against a lot. She's going to do treatment, but she wants to use food as a therapy. And so I'm helping her. We're going to do culinary coaching together. We're talking about what foods starve cancer better than, what are the best foods to eat to help you not just, even to feel better through your treatments, but also to give your body the best chance. She's 100% on board. And I found myself being really excited about that. And I thought, oh my gosh, helping people that are going through really scary, chronic disease is important too, but something like a really scary diagnosis like this, people aren't really using therapies like plant-based eating. And I think that's really exciting. And I would like to do that more down the road, in addition to weight loss.
Yeah, I think that would be a tremendous service to help people realize that they have options, because a lot of times in those spaces that she's in, especially with cancer, there's so much fear and so much unknown. And unfortunately, the medical profession only feeds that fear and unknown even more. So
Mhm.
having another voice of reason that can present some of these, healthier options, especially in food, on a routine basis from the plant world, which could be majorly beneficial. So, Julia, as we kind of wind ourselves down, are there any final words or messages you'd like to share with the audience out here?
I think it's just really important for people to get educated themselves. Like we were talking about, the environment is not changing fast enough. I am seeing small changes, but it's not changing fast enough. And so I encourage everyone to read everything you can, watch everything you can. There's some really excellent documentaries, movies out there. There was a really great one recently called Eating for Tomorrow. I think that's what it was called. It was wonderful. And I just think that's the key, that we all start making changes in the right direction. but it does require us to face the truth, face the facts, be willing to learn more. And I encourage everyone to learn as much as you can and start making changes in your life that support, humanity to animals, your own health, and of course, Mother Earth. What else do we have if not those?
Well, I can't thank my guest, Julie Davis, enough tonight for coming, sharing her journey, her insight, her work. And I urge you, if you have the need for some coaching and making the transitions into a plant-based way of life and using the plant-based approach to promote healthy weight loss across time, I urge you to follow Julie. You can see her website, her URL scrolling across the screen, juliedaviscoaching.com. And I want to thank the people that have joined us tonight, because without you, we can't do what we do. And I want to really thank you for being part of this very active, healthy community. And on behalf of the National Health Association, I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and I look forward to being with you on the next episode of the Health Science Podcast. Julie, thank you so much for your time and energy. Really, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association. Thank you for joining us today and for your commitment to evidence-based health science that backs a whole food, plant-exclusive lifestyle and contributes to the well-being of all people, animals, and our environment. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino. Be sure to leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next show.